flowed through their veins. The two battled each other fiercely like arch enemies.
Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening is an action-adventure hack-and-slash video game developed and published by Capcom and released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2. It is the third game in the very well-known series and was the next entry after the very disappointing Devil May Cry 2. Dante's Awakening had a lot to make up for at the time. Fortunately, the release of this title saw it receive 8 and 9 out of 10 pretty much across the board, and is now widely considered one of the best games within the PS2 library. This is also a game that means a lot to me personally, and although it is a difficult task, I'm going to do my best to provide an honest and objective look back at this game of all of its greatness and flaws. Devil May Cry 3 may be the third game in the franchise, but it is actually the first game in the series chronologically, as it's a prequel that takes place in the early days of Dante as a demon hunter. Our main character Dante is one of two sons of the legendary demon knight Sparda, who sided with humanity and drove back an invasion of the human world roughly 2,000 years ago. In present day, Sparda has passed away, and Dante's mother was recently murdered by a group of demons. On a quest for revenge, or maybe just for fun, possibly both, Dante opens up his own business as a private investigator of paranormal activity, so pretty much a one-man ghost-busting operation. And before he even opens his office, he receives a mysterious invitation from a man named Arkham, who says he works for Dante's twin brother, Virgil.
Please, accept it.
And it is here where our game begins, as Virgil decides to sprout an enormous tower from the ground, causing all sorts of chaos to the nameless metropolitan area, and unleashing a horde of demons upon the city. The game's narrative then focuses on Dante's journey of exploring this tower to discover what's going on and stop his brother from whatever it is that he's trying to do. I have to say that this game's story is stupid, but in the best way possible. While the characters, cutscenes and set pieces are all quite ridiculous and over the top, the game doesn't take itself seriously at all and does have some half-decent attempts at humour.
This party's getting crazy. Let's rock.
The game knows what it is and sticks to it, and is all the better for it. And a lot of the same things can be said about its gameplay. As mentioned earlier, this is a hack-and-slash action game, which means plenty of swinging of swords and other melee weapons, with ranged weapons such as pistols and shotguns thrown in to mix things up further. The action has a great feel to it and is very easy to pick up at first. You have one button for your melee attacks to keep things simple, and you can discover new attacks by experimenting with the timing of your button presses. You could button mash your way through this game, or you could learn new combos and add more flair to your attacks by carefully timing them. A big part of the combat in Devil May Cry is its incentive for stylish combat. The game rewards you for trying out new moves and getting the full use of your arsenal while taking on enemies. By using a variety of your attacks and switching weapons mid-combat, you can earn a better rank at the end of each mission, which also earns you more of the game's currency to further develop and improve your skills. There really is a lot of depth to the game's combat, and it pays to take time to experiment with the new weapons that you earn as you progress through the story, and also learn the benefits of the 4 fighting styles that the game has to offer. This means that whether you want to focus on swords, guns or agility, you can choose how you want to play and invest the game's currency into strengthening your chosen style. Now, while the combat is a lot of fun, it is by no means easy. The majority of minions can be taken down without really concentrating, however the larger enemies and bosses do require focus and timing if you want to defeat them. The game strikes a balance with its difficulty that makes fights more interesting but not necessarily frustrating, and challenges you to really think about what you're doing in order to deal the most damage when you get the opportunity, making the boss battles incredibly satisfying. The structure of the game itself is quite similar to the old Resident Evil games, with large areas to explore as you maybe solve a puzzle to open one door, which allows you to grab a specific item that could open another. Throw in some occasional backtracking and plenty of chopping up of demons, and that is pretty much Devil May Cry 3. The story is broken up into missions that can take anywhere from 5 minutes to half an hour to complete, which does help break things up a bit and provide you with plenty of stopping points to customise and upgrade your abilities. It will probably take you between 10 and 15 hours to get through the story. DMC3 is not a game that overstays its welcome, but instead provides you with a campaign that is long enough to feel like you're getting your money's worth, and short enough that you'll consider playing it multiple times. The visual presentation has held up quite well for a game released 13 years ago. Jesus Christ. Some of the textures do look a little rough today as we live in a Ultra HD 4K world, but the game's character models are both well designed and have aged surprisingly well. I have to mention that the cutscenes were clearly produced with a lot of care, as the choreography and animation of the action is very impressive, and while they are ridiculous, the action is at least cool, like this for example. Voice acting is about what you'd expect of a game of this sort of over-the-top nature. Everyone seems to deliver their lines relatively well, with Dante throwing out maybe one too many sarcastic lines, but at the end of the day he's half demon and wears an overcoat with no shirt, so I don't know why I'd expect anything different from somebody like that. The final thing to mention on it all really is the music within the game. Throughout every fight you'll hear some type of electro, metal, industrial sound, which depending on your taste you'll either love or hate, but just know it does feel very early 2000s. In conclusion, I said I'd do my best to remain honest and objective, and looking back at this game many years later, I can honestly say that it holds up as a great action game with a lot of thought and care behind its development. There are a few things that I would change to make the game slightly better, such as the punishing checkpointing system or the occasional obstructive camera, but overall the feeling I get from this game is just something that I don't want to put down. The combat is a tremendous amount of fun, which rewards you for taking it seriously. The RPG elements keep the game fresh from one mission to the next. The frequent feeding of more story and cool cutscenes provide a break from the action, and the challenge that the game offers does make defeating its bosses feel like an accomplishment. Devil May Cry 3 is a game that knows what it's trying to be and sticks to it. It is arguably within the top 20 of the best PS2 games of all time. If you've not played it, then I recommend you do. If you've played it before, then I recommend you play it again. Regardless, if you own a PS2, this game deserves to be on your shelf.
I can already tell. Looks like this is gonna be one hell of a party!